How's everybody doing? Welcome to the first ever video on the Dynasty Psych channel. Look, I'm so excited to bring you guys this video. It's been a long time coming for me. I am super passionate about Dynasty Fantasy Football and really the whole roster building draft process and just seeing this through because I used to be redraft. And don't get me wrong, redraft is cool. This Dynasty by no means is everybody's cup of tea. I know that. But I'm here to bring you guys some unique perspective and insight in how to navigate the crazy world, ever evolving Dynasty fantasy football landscape. And really, look, this channel is founded on the basis that I'm not the most savvy data analytic driven person. Ultimately, how I navigate my own leagues is the unique context of what the league settings are. Who's in the league? The economy, you hear that word a lot. Economy of the league in general. Are a lot of moves made? Look, it's all super complex. I could drone on, but I know what you guys are here for. Let's get into an NFL mock draft and subsequent 101 through 112, a first round dynasty draft. A mock as well, if you will. Let's get into this. All right, so here we are on NFL Mock Draft Database. Shout out, really the premier mock draft aggregator, really, in my view, big board aggregator. All the different sites, CBS, ESPN, Walter Football, whatever, you can name it. Congregates, aggregates, I guess is the right word. All the mock drafts. Who's getting picked where. And then it curates this big board, which, look, I use constantly to just get a pulse for who's going to be picked where. Just get a feel. And I think this is the type of feel that is really going to help serve you and all of us as we get into the offseason that's right around the corner in our Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. Look, 101, the Bears. I'm a Justin Fields guy, relatively. But Caleb Williams is ultimately too much to pass up. And for the Bears, if you have the 101 at this point, you have the first overall pick again. I think even though Justin was injured this season, new regime, you can really kind of wipe a slate clean. You get the basically heir to Patrick Mahomes is what he's been hyped up to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm actually a big believer in another quarterback as well in this, not to discount Caleb Williams. A lot's kind of going on. Frankly, I think it's been some prospect fatigue, which is not totally fair to Caleb. In my book, which we'll get into later in the form of a 101 through 112, a dynasty first round rookie draft, we'll get into more of my viewpoints in specifically, but nonetheless, Caleb Williams 101. I think Drake May is going to make it quite a conversation, and he already has. But without further ado, we have the Cardinals here at the second pick, looking like they might very well stay in this spot. And unlike the Bears and changing their quarterback room, I got to go and give the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, really, his weapon of the future, Marvin Harrison Jr., a unbelievable talent. I think you hear generational, right? That's tossed around so much. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is truly a transcendent type of player. He's basically the best prospect, I think. That's not a hot take at all in this draft in terms of just the talent, the production profile, everything. He's like a unicorn at the position, right? The size, strength, speed, just ability to go up and get the ball through contact. He's even got after the catch ability. He's not your Jamar Chase maybe in that sense after the catch, but he is as close to a perfect prospect as they get, right? That's the theme, right? There's no such thing as perfect. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is very close. Might be the closest thing in the Merriam-Webster dictionary to him. No joke. So Kyler Murray gets his wide receiver one and hopefully return to some of the MVP form we saw him early in his career when he had D-Hop at the helm. But 103, look, Patriots, talking about the theme of quarterbacks, right? If you're picking at the top of the draft, quarterback's going to be the hot button issue about what's on your roster and what maybe you need to be on your roster. And look, the Patriots need UNC's Drake May. He is athletically and just physically, I think, in the mold of a Justin Herbert, of a Josh Allen type. Maybe not as dynamic as a runner necessarily, but he is, I think, out of this draft, maybe the closest thing, for example, to a pocket dominator like CJ Stroud has been. Not trying to compare like for like, right? But comparison, look, we all know that is what we search for as humans in human nature here. And we see what's in front of us. We see what's in front of us in the NFL this season. We see what's coming up. So that's just only human nature, right? But look, to quote my guy CJ Stroud, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And that is a theme that, as we get into this channel, I will touch on in the future. But you care about the NFL mock draft right now. Let's get into the fourth pick here. And look, full disclosure, this is a dynasty quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, a skill-driven position offensively. That's the complexion of this. I am by no means any expert on the X's and O's, really defensive side of the ball, for example. And like I said, outside of the skill positions on offense, I am no expert. So what I do, a little redundant there, I lean into people that know more than me, a lot more than me, the experts who have been doing this in the NFL draft world, scouting world for a long, long time, and who are keyed into a lot of the decision makers that ultimately make these picks, right? And are doing the evaluations, the one that counts when it comes to who's on the clock, April 28th, whatever it is exactly going to be. But and the beauty of this, just to reiterate, with NFL mock draft database, this kind of aggregates the mock drafts that are coming in to kind of help fuel our perspective and key us in for what might happen. And so look, at this point in time, dealing with the information that we have available, I got to just kind of chalk Olu Fashanu, get Justin Fields. You can't look, offensive tackle, the trenches, we all know as football fans, those are the premium positions. And Fashanu, look, he could have declared last year. He is a very, very, very good offensive line prospect, franchise type tackle, bookend, protect your Caleb Williams. You really can't, even if you have tackles, you can't have enough offensive or defensive linemen. That is a theme with my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and how I guess we've been really successful the last couple of years. But enough of that talk. Olu Fashanu, I think fair enough, simple enough. And look, theme is again with the Commanders. You've given up Sam Howell a lot of sacks. Part of it is on Sam Howell. Don't get me wrong. But Joe Alt, really an athletic freak at the position. We're seeing crazy athletes more and more with every draft, to be honest. That's just the world we live in. And look, Joe Alt is a former tight end in high school and quarterback. He is just next in line out of the Notre Dame, almost offensive line university, so to speak. Your Ronnie Stanley's, Mike McGlinchey's formerly, but really obviously even inside Quentin Nelson's of the world. Joe Alt is a extremely, extremely attractive prospect who can project to an all-pro type tackle as Olu Fashanu. And moving on, look, we're getting into a very interesting range here with the 6th and 7th picks, starting, of course, with the New York Football Giants. Shout out Bengal. One of the inspirations for this channel. But look, if you know, you know. We're going to the quarterback position, and maybe a little bit outside the box here, but we're already starting to see it happen. I'm a big, big fan of this man, Jaden Daniels. Maybe a little bit hot takey, but I really don't. Like I said, I really do pay a lot of attention to the Twitter, the X sphere, I guess now. A lot of shows, a lot of content. I consume a lot of football-related content. And as much as we can consume from external sources, ultimately, what boils down to it is it's our unique dynasty football teams. We get to watch on Saturdays these games ourselves. And Jaden Daniels is a monster. And he's now getting more and more traction, similarly to kind of how Anthony Richardson did in his draft cycle just not even I guess 12 months ago at this point, which seems crazy. But Jaden Daniels, he's a little bit, what he doesn't have going for him is age, but age is just a number. If anything, it's a double-edged sword. Teams want to see, especially at this type of position, it doesn't hurt to have unreal production and have a little bit of seasoning in terms of a 4 or 5 year type starter at the college level, a little bit more refinement. In this case, Jaden Daniels, I think, has a lot more refinement at this point in time. I'll go off a ledge and say that than Anthony Richardson did in terms of just the consistent production. And look, Cam Newton, that was kind of in terms of a physical type style, a comparison, or I guess Cam Jackson, in the words of Anthony Richardson himself, was the comparison and who he's looked up to. I think Jaden Daniels is kind of like as close as you can get to Lamar Jackson, solely. Just from the almost gazelle, his ability to run and get to from 0 to 60 is second to none, I feel like, in terms of quarterback prospects we've seen in recent times. And what he's done this season in what I think should be the Heisman winner is air it out down the field, consistently make big time throws to, quote, PFF, shout out PFF. Love those guys. Trevor Sikkema, Connor Rogers, Mike Renner formerly, but big time throws. Jaden Daniels, plenty of it. And I know Dane Brugler, he's tweeted a bunch of times, just in terms of explosive plays. It's Jaden Daniels with 90, I believe, this season. And then you got to go down, the Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Drake Mays of the world, sitting in around the 60 to 70 range. Jaden Daniels is an athletic freak. Really looking forward to the Senior Bowl process with him and really the pre-draft process, as I think he's only continued to rise and shoot up draft boards. So look, enough of that talk. Similarly, the story I think kind of holds true for Bo Nix. Look, Bo Nix, I am an SEC. I'm a South Carolina guy. I've seen Bo dating back to 4 years at this point, 2020, 2019. It's just crazy to think about how far he has come from his Auburn days, where, look, he has the pedigree. That's the thing. People like to forget. You're drafting these guys out of college, and a lot of NFL guys, I feel like, from scouts and people that have so much experience, they say, look, pedigree, you can't ignore pedigree. Coming out of high school, Bo Nix, a top quarterback, as was Jaden Daniels. And they're both their class. Bo Nix, I think he's almost had shades of a Russell Wilson, I think, in terms of the mobility when he has to. But really, he has made so many plays with his arm and hasn't had to really use his legs as much as he probably could or should maybe at the next level. He has been an unbelievable player, as has Jaden Daniels. I think 1A, 1B in terms of the Heisman race. And I think similarly, look, with Bo, I think he's going to have such a unique pre-draft process where he's going to only help himself, as he does in the Pac-12 championship and potentially in the CFP. A potential CJ Stroud type scenario where it's the game against Georgia that potentially really puts him on this national scale. Nonetheless, really exciting prospect. This draft class, it's just awesome. I'm just fired up. You hear my voice talking about this and doing a mock draft for all of y'all. I guess that's redundant too. Ignore that. Let's get into the New York Jets here. Really tough, brutal for them. I got to go with shoring up that offensive line, getting some bookends to really just kickstart your offense, especially if you have an Aaron Rodgers play for, maybe the end of this 2023 season. Hopefully he's made it a commitment relatively for 2024 as well. So look, I'm going to give the New York Jets Talise Fuaga. The short story that I'm going to give with a lot of these prospects that aren't, the offensive skill players. Look, with Fuaga, he's a bit of a mauler, right? He is a run blocking savant almost. He is a physical freak that's shot up draft boards. And look, my rationale, short and sweet with the Jets. With Aaron Rodgers, of course, you're going to want to pass the ball, tote the rock around, but the identity of a football team. And look, with the Jets having a borderline, if not bona fide top 5 running back in Breece Hall, I think you have to consider a guy like Fuaga here to really solidify your run game and then ultimately fuel your play action and your deep passing game to your Garrett Wilsons of the world. So that's kind of my spiel there. Look, we're talking Dynasty Psych here. What do we like? Wide receivers for Justin Herbert. Get my guy some help. Quentin Johnston, my God. Brutal to see. Sad to see kind of his struggles, but Malik Neighbors is a monster. He's a monster. He is everything and then some we would have hoped really Kayshon Booty to be. Really Malik Neighbors. And shout out to him. I remember start of last season, 2022, against FSU. He had a muffed punt. And ever since then, the guy has been on a mission, an absolute mission. Look, Malik Neighbors, he is a bona fide top 10 type guy. He is not a Marvin Harrison in terms of physical stature, but he is, I would argue, more compact. I guess, yeah, throw that generalization or stereotype out the window. So we got, a 6 foot, kind of 200 type build with Malik Neighbors. DJ Moore, shout out Jordan Reed. He's been who gave the DJ Moore comparison when I saw on X, right? DJ Moore is kind of a comparison for Malik Neighbors, right? Not a bad player at all. Just saw him tear up Monday Night Football. DJ Moore, very good receiver. I think Malik Neighbors has a higher ceiling than that. And honestly, when I see Malik Neighbors, maybe again, it's some bias because of my team with the Philadelphia Eagles, Malik Neighbors honestly kind of has shades of AJ Brown in my view. Built more compact than maybe the measurables might indicate. He's just a pain to bring down, and he is a monster after the catch, simply put. Let's get into the Tennessee Titans here. And again, look, we're going to have our own little mock draft, Dynasty mock draft after this, my own mock draft. Let's get into the tight end well. Tennessee Titans, look, Chigakonkwo, Dynasty darling. We love him, but when you have a chance to draft Brock Bowers to help, I think, Will Levis, who will be under center for them next season, I think he's shown just enough to this point in time. Brock Bowers is talk about after the catch. He's an after the catch monster. Get the ball in that guy's hands. People talk about, the value of the tight end position. He is a better prospect, I think, than Kyle Pitts maybe was, in the sense that, look, he doesn't have the shock, freakish, athletic pop off the screen value that Kyle Pitts does. But Brock Bowers, man, all he's done is produce since he was a true freshman at Georgia. Been really the key cog on offense for these last couple title runs, and looks to be, again, the centerpiece as they move forward on a potential third 3-for-3 title run, which would be insane. Shout out to what Kirby Smart's got going down there in Athens. But Brock Bowers, don't overthink it. An unbelievable weapon that doesn't come around often at all. Vegas Raiders. I think they would have loved to have a lot of these guys that went off the board, especially at the quarterback position. I'm not going to go to the quarterback well here. I think with the Raiders, look, you see QB is one of their needs, right? I don't think Aiden O'Connell's maybe the guy long term. We'll see how he closes out this season. But when I think of the Raiders and just some toughness, I'm going to Illinois' Johnny Newton. He's kind of at the top of the class again, and people who know a lot more than me talk about really him in a kind of a tier of his own in terms of the defensive line interior type guys. Johnny Newton is a hot commodity at a premium position. I think this is really where his range is probably going to start. Although, again, what the hell do I know? New Orleans. Look, let's just go to the offensive line route. And let's go get J.C. Latham. Again, I'm not an offensive line expert, but this is where I think he's going to go. Offensive tackle, again, it is like the premium position, you could argue, outside of quarterback. It is what it is. Not the sexiest position, but these guys mean so much to the offensive franchises and really the quarterbacks that they serve and protect as the bodyguard. So getting into the Packers again, look, as much as we want to go, I'd love to go receiver here. They just don't do it. But what you might as well do is get Amarius Mims. Interested to see the narrative with him is I'm not sure if he's going to come out. We will see in terms of declaring for this draft. Maybe goes back for another year. But again, talk about a freak of nature. Georgia keeps churning out these guys. Broderick Jones last year. Amarius Mims to be your potential franchise tackle. Protect Jordan Love, who's been on fire. Loving me some Jordan Love. Glad I have him and didn't trade him at my trade deadline in my home league in Dynasty. But let's go to the LA Rams. And I got to go with Leatu Latu out of UCLA. Kind of staying home. Look, Latu had almost a similar path as Jalen Phillips has. Although Phillips started at, I guess, UCLA, right? Ultimately was at Miami when he got drafted. And had, with both these guys, the similarity, I mean, is in terms of a medical retirement, which is really scary. But look, gone through enough, treatment, recovery to get to the point, which is so great to see. And I should say Jalen Phillips, brutal to see his ACL or Achilles tear in the Black Friday, first ever Black Friday game we saw. But look, back to Leatu Latu in question here, has had a quite unique journey and road to where he's gotten, but he has been unstoppable, really. Talk about, again, seasoned prospect, really refined pass rush moves. Again, who do you see get picked in the NFL draft high? Quarterback, receivers, offensive tackles that we've just shown, defensive linemen on the inside, and of course on the outside. Latu, first edge off the board, but definitely not going to be the last. Let's get into what we all love. Wide receivers again. I'm giving the Cincinnati Bengals Keon Coleman. Talk about, again, the wide receiver class. If you got first or second round picks, especially you got first round picks, hold them near and dear to your heart, because we got receivers in this upcoming draft class, unless the sky's falling, knock on wood, and none of them declare, which would be like the worst day in Dynasty history. But look, Keon Coleman, he was a role player. He played basketball for Tom Izzo, one of the more well-respected coaches and programs in college basketball. The guy is a two-sport athlete. He's a freak of nature. And when you think of a potential T. Higgins replacement, again, it's not a like-for-like per se. But Keon Coleman, my God, just throw it up to the guy, which Joe Burrow next year, a healthy Joe Burrow, just tossing it up to Keon Coleman. I can't even imagine. Talk about upside for a Dynasty wide receiver one potential. I mean, look, a lot of these guys, which we'll get into in the future here, in the present, near future, these receivers, I think, are stepping in. There is going to be a handful of guys that are going to be at and above, the JSN top 12, 15 type Dynasty receiver ranking from the get-go. Marvin Harrison, talking about wide receiver 3, I think. Wide receiver 3 solidified for Maserati Marv, Gus Johnson. But jokes aside there, right? Keon Coleman, he's a monster. And look, the Bengals, I think they're just on course. They're not going to be able to pay T. Higgins, I don't think. And why not draft Keon Coleman? This is the draft to get a T. Higgins replacement to pair alongside Jamar Chase and really maybe get back right to where they were in the promised land of the AFC title game and Super Bowl of recent years. But the theme continues, guys. The Buffalo Bills select Rome Odunze. If these picks, these are just pipe dreams, these last two picks, from a Dynasty perspective. We get Keon Coleman, Rome Odunze, to Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, respectively. You could not be tied to a better situation, really. And look, a hot topic that we'll talk about a lot and in the future is how much do we wait? Landing spot. But look, with this, I'm not maybe a huge believer in waiting landing spot, but given how talented the players already are, as a differentiator, oh my God. I mean, we're just drooling at the mouth here with these picks. Rome Odunze. And look, I think we'll see. Rome Odunze maybe has the wide receiver one role, potentially, depending on what the heck's going on with Stephon Diggs. Does he have a future in Buffalo? Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think's going to happen over there. But moving on, the Cardinals, they already selected Maserati Marv, as Gus would say. But I think they would have loved to have Johnny Newton here, knowing Jonathan Gannon as an Eagles guy, a defensive guy at heart, but you couldn't pass up Maserati Marv to start. I think you can't go wrong. Eagles, we love our defensive linemen. You get Dallas Turner. He's been a producer for a couple years now, since his true freshman true freshman year, excuse me. But yeah, great, really good prospect. Again, I'm no expert, but Dallas Turner, he's a bona fide top 20 pick. Goes 17 to the Cardinals in my mock here. 18. I think, look, with the Broncos, we're continuing a little bit of an edge run. Jared Verse. Will he get a chance with Florida State in the college football playoff to really kind of build momentum for his draft stock? I don't know. Let me know, guys, if you think Florida State makes it into the CFP, if they deserve to be in. It's going to be a hot button item. I know it is, but Jared Verse, look, another guy that could have come out last year, but he decided not to. Talk about a guy who transferred from Albany, New York. Talk about a lacrosse school, a basketball, not a football school by any means, right? Well, Jared Verse is a absolute stud of a pass rusher, wreaking havoc time in, time out. A little bit inconsistent maybe this year, which is why he's maybe not lived up to some expectations, but I think he's still a awesome, awesome prospect. And again, Sean Payton no coach can get enough defensive line talent, point blank. With the Atlanta Falcons, it would be something if I picked a receiver, right? Let's go get a receiver. Let's go get a tight end. You know what? Let me go pick Trey Benson. Imagine if look, I don't know if Arthur Smith's going to still be there. I think we're now seeing Arthur Smith. Hey, man, you just won because you just used Bijan Robinson, your 8th overall pick, man. Maybe a great idea. Maybe a good idea, Arthur. Already, maybe use your best players. But jokes aside, I think you can't go wrong with, well, quite honestly, the well that they've already touched on before and hit Nate Wiggins. Clemson, look, they hit on A.J. Terrell massively. I think they go back to that Clemson defensive back well with Nate Wiggins, not to be confused with Andrew Wiggins. But yeah, Nate Wiggins, really good prospect. There's some dudes on the defensive back corner really side of the ball, specifically, I should say. I don't know, I'm not really speaking English here, but honestly, some really good defensive back prospects. Maybe not at the level of Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez necessarily, but looking like it's going to be a decent cornerback class, For the Vikings, look, they're a team, we just saw Josh Dobbs struggle mightily, and that whole offense, look, Kirk Cousins, I think there's no way he returns. I think Kirk's gone. Quarterback, do we go quarterback here? I think they very well could. And I don't think they're going to really be, I don't think they're going to be picking here at 20 when it's all said and done. I think they may be going a little bit of a downward spiral and lose some games. But nonetheless, we're going to shore up the defensive side of the ball here. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry. I feel like with the Vikings, it's really been in flux in terms of cornerback. You've had Pat Peets, you've had Cam Dantzlers. It's just not really been all that consistent, I feel like, with the Vikings in terms of finding their luck and footing at that position. But Kool-Aid McKinstry, talk about, look, if you want to bet on Alabama, started since day one. Kool-Aid, talk about name value alone. That guy, all name team right here, worthy alone, I think, of the 20th pick. But moving on to 21st here. I'm going to go again. Look, Cooper DeJean. I think he is a bit of a Swiss Army knife. I think really you could play him in a variety of roles on the defensive side of the ball and really just pick your poison, figure out how to best use him in your scheme, and just run with it. I think he's going to be quite a talent. He already is, and I think is actually going to realize some potential at the next level and really break down the stigma of a white corner. Haven't really seen it since, I guess, Jason Sehorn, but Cooper DeJean is no joke at all. The guy's a stud. Playing on that Iowa defense, I mean, Iowa, the defensive side of the ball is where they butter their bread, as we all know. But, yeah, Cooper DeJean, great prospect. Excited to see where he might go. For the Seahawks, look, I think staying in-house, staying in Seattle, Braylon Trice, talented edge rusher, leading that Washington defense, wreaking havoc, really helping them when it matters most in these type of games where they've had a lot of close one-score games to kind of back end of this regular season. Braylon Trice, stud. You know who's also a stud? We're going to go Chop Robinson to the Steelers. Look, Western Central PA-ish, Chop Robinson, maybe not. He's a little bit raw, I think. Some people, I think there's a large range of opinions on him. Look, as everything in the theme of this channel, I think the answer, we like to think of things in black and white, but the answer is somewhere in the middle. Somewhere the answer is ultimately lies within the gray. And with Chop Robinson, he is a young prospect. He is projectable and has a lot of tools in his bag. I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers would love to tap into that. Houston Texans. With Houston, we are going to go give CJ Stroud a weapon. Look, I know CJ, it looks like it's enough with what he's managed with. Does he really need a weapon? I think he absolutely could use one. And why not? In this case, give him his guy, Emeka Egbuka, who had his best year easily with CJ at the helm in 2022, last season. He is a bigger profile than a Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I should say bigger profile, like bigger physically, right? He's struggled a bit this season. It hasn't been pretty at all for the Ohio State offense a lot of the time with no CJ Stroud, right? Marvin Harrison, he's kind of been, the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. And obviously with Kyle McCord, it's that high school connection that dates, we're talking years and years now. Emeka Egbuka kind of maybe falling behind the wayside, a little bit behind that curve in that sense. But nonetheless, he is a great, great prospect. Has some size, athleticism, just a reliable, honestly, potential wide receiver one, I truly believe, in the NFL. Emeka Egbuka, CJ Stroud, that is a match made in heaven. Talk about quarterback-receiver pairings in this mock. Man, we got some good ones. And we're not even done by any stretch with only about 8 picks left to go. Stay tuned. With the Dolphins, look, they already got their receivers. I think that's simple enough. With the Dolphins, I really think you look to solidify the offensive line and just to protect Tua. We've seen with Teron Armstead, he's been hurt, dealing with some things. Look, again, ultimately the tackle, we're going to give him Graham Barton out of Duke. Duke as a program having a better year, which saw Mike Elko, the coach, leave for A&M. Let me know what you guys think about that coaching transfer and really the whole saga with Bob Stoops and almost being basically bullying the A&M hierarchy to just move on from their Bob Stoops, what seemed like set in stone. But yeah, just a weird stuff going on down there in College Station. Look, with Graham Barton, I don't know what we did there. I don't know a lot about him. I'll be honest. We still got a lot to watch and a lot to look forward to as we go week by week, day by day on this channel. So it could be the last time we talk about Graham Barton. I'm sure of that. But for now, I think he has been definitely a reason why Duke had some success. Obviously, Riley Leonard, a big part of that. But yeah, let's go on to the Cowboys here. We're going to the receiver well. In Texas, we are keeping Xavier Worthy. Man, look, they've had Gallup. They have Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has been coming on a couple games now running. But I think, look, receiver, premium position. Dallas loves to draft them. And I think Xavier Worthy easily walks in as the wide receiver 2, a number 1 off, maybe 1A, 1B type option, potentially, with CD Lamb. And look, Jerry Jones, I know loves his receivers. And I don't know if we definitely can't count on Gallup, Cooks, either or both, maybe even being back next season. So Xavier Worthy, I think very well could happen. Would pain me as an Eagles fan, but for fantasy, my God, Dak can certainly support him and give him some deep balls down the field. Xavier Worthy, really been showing it since day one at Texas. Really curious to see how he maybe tests and potentially just solidifies maybe even top 20 status. We'll see. I think given his frame, he's kind of like a Devontae Smith type, Jordan Addison, in terms of not the biggest of frames at all, but he can win down the field. He can win really all areas of the field. He's just such a crafty, speedy player that you can't really have enough of in the modern NFL. In a draft class which honestly bucks the trend of these type of Xavier Worthy, smaller type guys, which for good reason. We're talking about alpha receiver 1 profiles that are 6'2", 210 type, a handful of guys in this class, and we're not even done reaching from that well in this mock. But Xavier Worthy, he stands out in his own right, very rightfully so. The Detroit Lions. For Detroit, look, I think let's go to the defensive back. Well, I think Kamari Lassiter, he has really been rising up, I think, boards as of late. Georgia, the number 1 team in the country. Defense, their calling card, where their bread's been buttered these last few years. Kamari Lassiter is really kind of standing out as a cornerback 1 potential type guy. And he's got the physical profile to absolutely to be that guy at the next level. I think Detroit would love to have him. And really, look, they maybe missed out. People love Devin Witherspoon as the match made in heaven, or even Christian Gonzalez with them. I think they potentially get their guy this year with Lassiter. Let me know how you think the Lions finished this regular season, guys. What seed are they going to be? I don't think that's going to be enough to overtake my Eagles for the 1 seed. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. But Lassiter, I think solid pick here for the Lions. Speaking of another solid pick, I think for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we are going to stay here at corner and give them Denzel Burke. He has been a pretty big reason why Ohio State's defense has been so stout this year, and really a turnaround. Look, Ohio State corners, kind of a stigma recently with, you think of the Okudas, the Damon Arnett's of the world. Really not a good taste that's left in your mouth. But then again, think about Denzel Ward's of the world. Look, I think Denzel Burke, I guess Ohio State, Denzel's at corner. Simple as that. But jokes aside there, Denzel Burke is definitely, I think, had a good season. Again, guys, I don't have the most in-depth analysis for these defensive picks at the moment. Look forward to giving you and bringing you some more, but ultimately I know we're here. You want to see the Dynasty Mock first round. Let's get into that very soon. A little bit of a tease. The Kansas City Chiefs get Brian Thomas Jr. Talk about a guy that's burst onto the scene. Brian Thomas Jr., he, again, is an athletic freak who has just burst onto the scene. Production, really co-starring with Malik Neighbors. If he was maybe on any other team, we'd be talking about maybe Brian Thomas. I think naturally maybe, be in the spotlight and maybe almost boosting his draft stock up a little bit. But look, I'm not going to hold it against him. I think it's just by virtue of being in such a stacked receiver class as a whole, Brian Thomas nonetheless is a absolute stud at the position. I mean, the guy, like I said, physically, so much of a deviation from what we just saw last year with the likes of Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison and JSN, although JSN is pretty compact and well built. But Brian Thomas, I mean, Kansas City gets, I think, who they've been looking for a while here. Really everything I think you wanted and more in the types of MVS, Sky Moore, Justin Ross's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm looking at Rashee Rice, and I just traded him away in a league. We'll look into my stuff in future episodes, guys. But Brian Thomas Jr., what a player. What a potential pairing with Pat Mahomes. Are we pairing a receiver with Brock Purdy? No, we're not. For the 49ers, I think, look, we're going to give them some trench help. And I think, again, you can never go wrong with offensive line. We're going to give them Troy Fautanu. Hopefully I pronounced that right, Troy. A guy that's honestly kind of similar to Peter Skoronski in terms of last year's draft class, in terms of this really dominant guy who's played at tackle in college, but maybe profiles because of some physical thresholds, arm length, all that stuff. Maybe profiles more inside at the NFL, but we'll see. We'll see how he maybe fares against the Jordan Birch, Dorless of the world, against Oregon in the Pac-12 title game. Maybe really bolsters his stock, but he is definitely a high-end offensive line prospect. I don't know. Maybe this is not his range at all, but we will see. Time will tell, guys. Early mock draft, it's going to be a little bit ugly, but it's fueling our perspective here, and that's all we need. The Baltimore Ravens. Talk about receiver. Last of the first round, Xavier Legette, my guy out of South Carolina. Talk about another guy like Brian Thomas, really kind of similar, burst onto the scene, athletic freaks of nature. Xavier Legette, my word, he might be a guy that breaks the combine. And really, we'll see too, potentially the guy in the Senior Bowl who really, really separates himself. I could very well see it being Xavier Legette. But rounding out the first round in this mock, guys, we're going to my Philadelphia Eagles. Again, I think it's not too complex. We're going back to the well for the birds. Let's go get ourselves a pass blocking specialist, Patrick Paul. Draft is complete. Going through this again quickly, guys. We got Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, Keon Coleman, Roma Dunze, Emeka Ibuka, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Legette. We've got 13 guys, offensive skill position, in the first round, and only 12 spots to fill, though, in our 12-team Superflex League. So let's get into this, guys. I'm transitioning here into our Dynasty Fantasy Football Mock Draft. Let's get into this. All right, guys. We are back. to the, I guess, proverbial whiteboard, I guess now blue board is what we're working with. I know it's a little bit rough, guys, not the most attractive to the eye. We're going to work on it. We're going to improve these graphics as we move forward on this channel, but let's get into this. We're talking a 101 through 112, a 12-team first-round rookie dynasty mock draft. We've got, again, 12 picks to be made. So we're talking 12-team Superflex. So by default, we're talking probably 24 quarterbacks being started week to week. We're talking PPR, showing our receivers and running backs some love. But we're showing our tight ends some even more love, a little bit favorable with some tight end premium. We'll call it 0.5, nothing too crazy. Nonetheless, these are kind of the default structure. Oh, and start 10. Start 10 players. So about 120 skill position players, 24 of which quarterbacks likely. You know the math. I'm not going to bore you to death with it. Let's get into this. We're talking 101 rookie draft, and man, we just saw that NFL mock that I just did. That's what we're going to be using for the landing spots, of course. Is it going to happen? We can only cross our fingers and hope for, because my word, we just saw 13 skill position players, only 12 spots to fill in the first round, excuse me. Without further ado, we're talking Superflex, mocks, we're talking Caleb Williams. The 101, picked first overall to the Chicago Bears. He is a face of the franchise, obviously, franchise-altering player for the Chicago Bears and really for your dynasty football team, I think, as well. He, like I said, it's the gunslinger mentality, like a Pat Mahomes. The guy has the pedigree coming out of Gonzaga High School in D.C. The guy is Heisman from 2022. He's, again, it's prospect fatigue somewhat at this point. He is a 101 worthy type player, first overall type player in the NFL draft. But look, the beauty of this is he is not the only one in terms of prospects worthy of the 101 in our Dynasty Superflex mock drafts, because I think Drake May is as well. Out of North Carolina, we saw him. He got picked third overall to the Patriots. It's really looking kind of likely that at least one of the Bears or Patriots, I think if I had to put my money, both. I mean, I think these are where the top two quarterbacks go. And look, not the sexiest ideal landing spots. I know it's painful, but look what we were thinking with CJ Stroud and the Texans. And yes, that whole regime and Deep D'Amico Ryans and that 49ers culture coming from there. There's a lot going right in that sense. Not as much in terms of the trajectory of the Bears Patriots, but it is what it is. You got to be bad in some way to get to the position where you're able to draft these type of guys. And I think they're absolutely franchise-changing, franchise-altering players. And yeah, QB 1 and 2. And who does that leave at 3? Continuing the QB train? Nope. Marvin Harrison Jr. Look, I've seen the consensus maybe right now is him going 102 ahead of Drake May. I've even seen people argue 101. But, guys, I got to go back to Superflex. We're talking 2 quarterbacks are what you pretty much need on your football team to compete week in, week out. And if you want to reach the highest level of performance and output, QB is going to be your highest scoring position. And I think, look, the first 2 guys in Caleb Williams and Drake May, I think they're just going to be able to score more fantasy points than Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're just going to be more valuable, the position by default, than your receivers. We are lucky with how many good receivers are in the NFL and are going to be still in this draft class. That's another important context note here. We're going to have multiple receiver 1 types, which is beautiful for our dynasty rosters. Without further ado, the 104, are we sticking wide receiver? No, We're going Jaden Daniels, baby, to the New York Giants. He got top 6 draft capital, 6th overall. The Giants, look, man, they would have loved to, I think, get either Caleb Williams or Drake May, but quite a consolation prize for my money. Jaden Daniels, the guy has eons of potential. I mean, look what he just put on display this season. The statistics, we all know it at this rate. The guy is incredible. He is incredible, and I'm really intrigued to see where he ends up. Maybe this is a little bit aggressive. I get it. But look, we just saw Ryan Wilson over at CBS put Daniels 2nd overall to the Patriots. I mean, Jaden Daniels, look, he has surged to the point where I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I really do. And look, as I did with my thinking in this mock with Bo Nix, look, again, QB is king. If we have 4 top 10 quarterbacks, and given these guys' profiles, look, they're not the huge concern, or I don't know, however much you viewed it as a concern with Bryce Young's size. These guys are all, if anything, it's Caleb Williams as the most questionable size at just a shades above like 6 foot, but he's got the 200. All these guys, 200 plus pounds, closer to probably 210. These are athletic guys who are gonna score fantasy points for your team, and I think, look, they're not going to immediately might not burst on the scene like CJ Stroud has, but the psychology of a dynasty league, quarterback is the ultimate trade chip. It's the ultimate championship chip, if you will, in terms of helping you win. And it's just too value important to overlook at this point in your rookie draft. So 4 out of the 5 first picks are quarterbacks. And I think, look, we saw in how the mock turned out. Now we start turning the page. At 106, we're talking Malik Neighbors, baby. Him with Justin Herbert, my God. I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine. I think Malik Neighbors, talking about how important and valuable the quarterback position is, he might be a Rookie of the Year favorite. Honestly, over potentially Marvin, the fantasy output with Malik Neighbors. Talk about big plays and how much Jaden Daniels, how many big plays he had. I mean, the amount of big plays he and Malik Neighbors have shared is astonishing. I mean, the guy, he just missed. It was a shame. A penalty just held Neighbors short of LSU's all-time receiving record, I believe. The guy, and he's done it basically in like 20 games in terms of really consistent production. The guy is a monster. Malik Neighbors, he is maybe not, he's not quite at maybe Jamar Chase's level of a prospect, but he is a top 10 pick. He is that talented. He's that talented. And to get him at 106 in this mock draft it's again, this class, if you got your first round picks, just hold on to him. You're going to be able to get a ransom for him. I wholeheartedly believe that. You're going to be able to get a ransom 101 through 112, any first that you have. Just keep them. They are the ultimate trade chips here. And just value chips that you're probably best served, in many cases, to probably hold on to them and just make the pick. Depending on the context, obviously we'll have to get into that. I'll do some live streams. We'll be talking. But in this vacuum, Malik Neighbors 106, 107, I got to go Mr. Brock Bowers. Tight end premium. Look, tight end is a very interesting debate. Positionally, the value. But with Brock, he's going to be the focal point of whatever team and their offense he is drafted to. He's basically like he's almost like a jumbo slot guy, like a big slot receiver who is going to get peppered with targets. He even is as much as the play we probably don't like as fans, maybe the pop, pass, jet, sweep, screen type. The guy is just going to be involved in the offense. He's going to be involved. He's going to get volume. I really believe that, regardless, almost landing spot proof. Look, from a talent perspective, that's the beauty of these guys. they're really not going to be too dependent on their landing spot. They are just bona fide studs, dudes that can play football in real life and translate that to your dynasty fantasy football teams year one. And for many, many years beyond that. Enough of that weird thing. Let's go into the 108. Rome Odunze 108 to the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. My God, can you imagine? I've seen Rome comped to on the broadcast just last week against Washington State. With Heward, his comparison was, talking to some guys in the NFL. I'm not sure who exactly his NFL connection was, obviously, but he said, you know what? He's Devontae Adams. I've heard Mel Kiper. He has said he reminds him of Jamar Chase. Guys, this is the wide receiver 3 picked at the 108 in your Dynasty Rookie Mock. Like, take that in for a second. How absurd that what I just said is. Those are the comparisons he's getting in terms of archetyped as a player in the NFL. We're not talking fantasy production. We're talking him as an asset, as an unbelievable addition, a focal point of an NFL offense with Josh Allen and the Bills. My God. Similarly, look, you can kind of just take exactly what I said and apply it to Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, even him being, a 1B, even just the second option in a Bengals offense with Jamar Chase, who Rome Odunze was just comped to by Mel. Jamar Chase obviously is going to eat up targets forever with Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow is going to be able to absolutely support Keon Coleman. And I mean, talk about red zone threats. Talk about go up and get the football. I mean, Keon Coleman does that as good as anybody. Anybody in this class. I mean, he could easily get 10 touchdowns his rookie year. I mean, he is a touchdown. I think he's got like 14 this year. He just throw the ball up, let him get it. Keon Coleman. It's funny. You think about the last class we saw. Quentin Johnston, he was the size, physical freak guy. Keon Coleman is, no offense to Quentin, or QJ, as they call him. Keon Coleman is like everything you wanted in Quentin Johnston and more. Like they're not even really close in terms of a prospect level and just the build and the makeup. Keon Coleman, 109 in a Dynasty Rookie Draft. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, you need to hold your first round picks. As well as Brian Thomas. Patrick Mahomes' new weapon. I mean, who do we have? We have Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, all getting a shiny new toy. An absolute Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, Ferrari type receivers that are 6'2", 6'3", 210 plus pounds. Athletic freaks. They're made in a lab. Like, you just go to the front offices of these three teams, be like, hey, I know you guys maybe, you could spend some time, really thinking things through, overthinking, the specifications you exactly want on your receiver. I mean, these guys are like handpicked for these quarterbacks. Is this likely to happen? This is obviously like a close to perfect world from our landing spot context, but I think with these three teams, the Chiefs, we know, look at how they couldn't get over the hump against my Eagles because of an MVS key drop. They've got like the most drops in the league. And then with the Bills and the Bengals, Stephon Diggs and T. Higgins, I think, are more likely than not gone off of both those teams. So And your quarterbacks run your team. You got to surround them with weapons. You can't get enough of them. The 8 through 10 in this first round mock, just take a second and look at that. Appreciate that. Because, my God, maybe we can just play make-believe and pretend in this mock. But, again, this is realistic. I wholeheartedly believe that. And even if it's just 2 of those 3 teams that get a receiver, even if it's not in the first round, there still might be guys in the second. Enough of a tease. It's just unbelievable. And with the 111, it remains quite unbelievable. We get an Emeka Ibuka to get paired with his college quarterback that made him such a unbelievable receiver. I have to be careful. Not just made him. I mean, he exists in his own right and is an amazing prospect. But in terms of the guy that elevated him and really can only elevate him further in the NFL and for your fantasy football team to build your dynasty, I mean, I'm a broker. It's insane, guy. It is insane. Emeka Ibuka, 111 to the Texans to really be the focal point of that offense. Look, kind of compliment, like a 1A, 1B with Tank Dell. I mean, that would be unbelievable. You got Tank taking the top off the defense. You got Emeka getting you first downs, working the middle edges of the field. I mean, working route technician. I mean, the guy's incredible. I wish Ohio State got into the CFB and we could see more of them, but nonetheless, guys, don't let a down statistical year fool you. Emeka Ibuka is a great prospect, and honestly, I think would be the number 1 receiver prospect if he was in last year's class, which is, we're saying that at the 111 as the 1, 2, 3, 4, as the wide receiver 6 off the board. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I don't even think it's just 6 that are all better than last year's class. It's incredible. It is incredible. Eye of the beholder. Let me know how you guys rank the top 5 receivers. It's just incredible. And to beat a dead horse here at 112, Xavier Worthy, the X-Men, I'm thinking of Xavier Legette. Xavier Worthy to Dallas, that would be, again, just an incredible pairing with a top 10 quarterback in Dak Prescott. As much as it pains me to say that, Dak has been playing at a great level this year. Potential MVP conversation, well-deserving. I think CeeDee Lamb, Xavier Worthy. Man, that's a good duo. That is a good duo that I think is going to really compete and rival with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, as much as it pains me to say that. But, guys, that is the first round. Pick 101 through 1012. Look, in terms of storylines, we have 8 wide receivers drafted in the NFL mock draft out of the literally 25%, 1 in 4 out of 32 picks made are wide receivers. Look, guys, analysts, everybody's been talking about it. I believe it was, it might have been 1996. Don't quote me on the exact year. The early 2000s, I believe. The record for draft receivers drafted in the first round is 7. I really think this is the class to break that mold and break that record. As 1 in 4 players could very well, in terms of the 32 picks, 1 in 4 players, 8 total receivers could go in the first round of the NFL draft. And then you have to figure out how the hell do they figure into the year 8, 10, 12, 14 team rookie draft in the first round. It's just a dream. It is a dream. All the struggles, you guys, the rebuild, man, the tough years, the losing that you had to do. These might be the rainbows that you were looking for. It's going to make me cry. It's going to make me tear up how good this draft class is going to be. It's not, I'm telling you, 2025 is not going to sniff this. I don't believe it's going to sniff this in terms of the depth and top end talent. It's not. But yeah. On that note, no Xavier Legette. Speaking of Xaviers, no Troy Franklin, who I think could very well, I might be very low on Troy Franklin, excuse me. Not to say that he's a bad player. It's just so many of these guys are worthy of where they've been drafted in my mock and in this rookie mock, Dynasty football, like, it's just going to be who is the odd man out. And I think, unfortunately, in this case, it's for Troy Franklin. He was just on the outside looking in, but he very well could be the 33rd pick to Carolina in real life because, oh my God, Bryce Young, he needs help. He needs help. We'll see who their coach is, but I think, yeah, it's almost guaranteed that the 33rd pick, the Panthers get their receiver one. They hope for the future. And man, they're, as far as bad as the trade is looking like in hindsight, they are so well positioned with the strength of this draft to get a guy that could be the face of their franchise to pair with Bryce Young. But yeah, no, speaking of Texas, not another Xavier, but in Texas, A.D. Mitchell, a stud, a physical freak, a route runner, more than you could expect for his size. Again, guys, it's just the profiles are unbelievable athletically, production as well. It's just everything you could reasonably ask for is going to be at your disposal in terms of receivers and PPR leagues, flex, 4, 5, 6, whatever, however many you can start in your league. This is you might very well get them from this draft class. RIP running backs, because again, that's a theme. No running backs, obviously, in the first round of the draft. I mean, we're not going to see Bijan, Gibbs type prospects for a little while, I don't think. Not anywhere near the effect of, the top 15, both of them being top 15 picks we just saw in real life. I mean, they're just such unique athletes. And the running back class, if there is a downfall of this, a shortcoming of this draft class, it's the running back position. There's not really alpha running backs. It's really a shame. Raheem Rocket Sanders, I think, could have very well been the guy who could have vaulted into that type of archetype. A little bit redundant there, but he unfortunately dealt with injuries. Arkansas as a whole, really bad season for them. We'll see. I think Raheem Rocket Sanders might just go back to school or transfer. I don't know. We'll see. Have to keep in tune, guys. Transfer portal. I'm talking about all the shout out to the Devi guys or campus to Canton. We'll talk about that in the future, guys. But yeah, no running backs. And I really don't foresee running back. You don't draft from a position of need. If you need a running back so badly and you're looking for it in your rookie draft and you have a first, just try to trade back, guys. Trade back or trade yourself. We'll get into it, but trade back. Don't force a running back pick here. We'll see the landing spot, but what we like to say out there, the buzzwords of, top, round 2 draft capital. I don't know if running backs can get this. It's crazy. I think by law of numbers, I think there's going to be a running back that gets picked in the top 2 rounds, but no idea what that's going to be. The pre-draft cycle is going to be huge, I think, for the running back position in particular. And I think I outlined Trevion Henderson specifically as my guy to potentially watch here. Maybe he sneaks into like the 110, 111, 112 range if he, let's say he gets the Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, 38th, 37th overall pick in a attractive situation. Off the top of my head, it's tough to think what really would warrant that and really warrant if any running back gets that. I don't know if I could warrant putting them above in this mock. It's just there's no room for running backs. There's no room for running backs. They couldn't find room in the first round. And they're not going to find room in the first round of this mock as well for this Dynasty Rookie Mock. But rounding out top storyline, we saw 4 quarterbacks go. They composed 4 quarterbacks in the top 7 of the NFL mock, and then 4 quarterbacks in the top 5 of this Dynasty mock. Look, no McCarthy, no J.J. McCarthy, no Michael Penix. They both might be playing in the college, or they both look to potentially be in the college football playoff, so they both could really have CJ Stroud type games, to use that example. But CJ Stroud, I don't want to get into it, but I mean, you could see it coming with CJ more than just the Georgia. I'm not trying to sound like an expert, but look, with these 2 quarterbacks that I omitted out of my mock draft, they could very well crack the first round of the NFL draft. I think McCarthy is the much more likelier of the 2. With Penix, I don't know. I just think the red flags that we might be hearing of injury-wise. He's a fifth-year guy. Just that, yeah, he's kind of fallen off a little bit, the production. I love Michael Penix, I really do, but I don't have, I'm like 50-50 on if he cracks the first round. I think he's another guy. We'll see the Senior Bowl. If he goes through the Senior Bowl process, that pre-draft early on, he could really, really, I think, be well positioned to help his case more than anybody. But yeah, we'll see. We will see with Penix and JJ McCarthy especially. The other four, I'm very confident of where their draft capital is and them being able to reach that. We'll see. Well, maybe I eat my words, but guys, look, that rounds out this video. The first ever Dynasty Psych video. I've been recording for a long time, guys. Look, I hope you appreciated this. Look, tell me how bad it was. If you didn't, what I need to improve on. We're going to only improve on this channel. I look forward to growing the community here, helping you guys out with your Dynasty fantasy football teams, helping you navigate your leagues, figuring out, joining all of us on this journey to winning some championships and doing it with players we love and enjoy and just having fun ultimately. So I'll see you guys. Have a great week. Gamble responsibly if you do. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'll see you guys. Peace.